Before we get started today, I would like to review basic fractions with you. If I have 1/5 plus 2/5, what would that be? 3/5. When you're adding or subtracting fractions, you have to have a common denominator. Once you have a common denominator, do you actually add the denominators together? No. Think of it like a candy bar. If you've got 5 pieces of the candy bar and you've got 1 piece and then 2 more pieces, you've got 3 pieces out of the 5 pieces. You don't add the denominator. So if I give you a fraction like 1/2 plus 1/3, can you do that math right now without doing something to the fractions? So what you would end up doing is multiplying the first fraction by 3 on the bottom and the top. You'd multiply the second fraction by 2 on the bottom and the top. And that would give you 3/6 and 2/6. And those would add together to become 5/6. What they don't talk about in elementary and middle school is that this 2 and 3 are really called factors. There's a factor of 2 in the left fraction and a factor of 3 in the right fraction. We need to make the factors in both denominators match. Now in number 1, we don't have to do a whole lot of work. We have 4 over 3x plus 5 over 3x. Do you see how the denominators match? When the denominators match, you don't do anything with the denominator. The answer denominator will be exactly the same, and you add the numerators. What is 4 plus 5? You should look at the answer, though, and think about, could we maybe simplify this answer? We could cancel out a factor of 3, or 9 divided by 3 is 3. So this is 3 over x. So number 2, they both have x minus 4 as the denominator. So the answer denominator will be x minus 4. In the numerators, 5 minus 8 is -3. Easy peasy. Number 4, are the denominators the same? They are not. So I'm going to write 4 over 3x to the third, leave a space. Whatever symbol is between the fractions, just attach that symbol to the second numerator. That will be a nice trick if that ever happens to be a negative. It'll just make your life easier. We need to factor the denominators to see what we have. So 3x to the third is basically already factored. We're not going to do a whole lot with that. 6x to the third plus 3x squared. What do they have in common? Definitely 3. And then how many x's? X squared. 6 divided by 3 is 2. X to the third divided by x squared is x. 3x squared divided by 3x squared would be 1. Okay. What do these two denominators currently have in common? There's a 3, and there's x squared on the right, x to the third on the left. X to the third means x times x times x. X squared means x times x. How many more x's does this one need? 1 more. So if I put 1 more x in there, I also have to multiply 1 more x on the top. Whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. Because think about it. What is x divided by x? 1. You're multiplying the fraction by a fancy version of 1, which doesn't actually change the value of the fraction. It just manipulates it so that it's better for us. So now both denominators have x to the third. What does the denominator on the right have that the denominator on the left does not have? Ooh, sorry. Hold on. There we go. We've got a 2x plus 1. This other denominator needs a 2x plus 1. So, on the bottom and the top. Both denominators now have yellow, pink, and blue. So the denominators match. And that denominator is 3x to the third times 2x plus 1. Once your denominators match, you've got your denominator. Now we can work on adding the numerators. So what do you suppose we need to do with the 4 in the parentheses? Distribute. So that would be 8x plus 4. And then over here, x times x is x squared. Your next step is basically housekeeping. So get the numerator written the way that it should be written. Combine any like terms if there are any. We want the x squared to be first, then the 8x, then the 4. And our denominator stays the same. Number 4, first thing I want you to notice is that it's subtraction. We are going to need to factor the first denominator, factor the second denominator, and then see what matches and what needs to be changed to get common denominators. So I've got my x plus 1 over. Some people really like to do the blank times blank equals 9, blank plus blank equals 6, because that helps their brain focus on what they need to find. I'm learning that other people really just prefer to write this out and then stick numbers in and make it work. So ways to multiply to get 9. We've got 1 times 9 or 3 times 3. 3 and 3 could give us 6 if they were both positive 3. Leave a space so we can do some work. Attach the negative to the 1. And then let's factor x squared minus 9. How do we factor x squared minus 9? It's the difference of two squares, if that helps anybody. X and what's the square root of 9? 3. So x plus 3, x minus 3. Okay, once we have the denominators factored, the first thing I want you to do is look at what do the denominators already have in common. They already have an x plus 3. You can only count one of them because they both have at least one x plus 3. What does the denominator on the left have that the denominator on the right does not have? Another x plus 3. So we are going to need to put that into the other denominator. We want both of them to have a second x plus 3. And whatever you do to the denominator, you have to also do to the numerator. Okay, so now both denominators have a yellow and a pink. What else is there? X minus 3, which I'm going to do in blue. So this one needs an x minus 3. Okay, each denominator now has a yellow, a blue, and a pink. The order doesn't matter. The order doesn't have to match. They just each have to have the same factors. So our denominator is x plus 3. Do you see how there's two x plus 3s? I'm going to put a square on there because that saves me from having to write out the second x plus 3. And an x minus 3. Okay, the numerators. On this first numerator, put the x plus 1 in parentheses. What do you suppose we're going to have to do with x plus 1 and x minus 3? Distribute, double distribute, FOIL, whatever it is you call it. So x times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. 1 times x is 1x. And 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. The other numerator, we need to distribute the negative 1. So this would be negative 1x and negative 3. Okay, so step 1, factor your denominators and spread your work out. Step 2, get the denominators to match. Step 3, multiply out everything in the numerator to get to this. Step 4 is basically housekeeping. So, we start with x squared. If I add the x's together, negative 3x, positive 1x, and negative 1x, that would leave me with negative 3x. And negative 3 and negative 3 is negative 6. And our denominator is x plus 3 squared times x minus 3. Okay, try number 5 on your own. So I factored the first denominator and got x plus 1, x plus 3. I factored the second denominator. I got x plus 3, x minus 3. Both denominators currently have an x plus 3. This one has an x plus 1, so I need to get an x plus 1 into the other denominator. The one on the right has an x minus 3, so I need to get an x minus 3 into the other denominator. So my denominator is x plus 1, x plus 3, x minus 3. The order does not matter. For my numerators, I have to double distribute here, so that's going to give me x squared, negative 3x, negative 1x, positive 3. That's the result of distributing my first denominator, or my first numerator. And my second numerator is going to be positive x squared plus 1x. So there's my second numerator. Next step is housekeeping. Combine like terms. I've got x squared and x squared. That would be 2x squared. Negative 3x, negative 1x, positive 1x. That would combine to negative 3x. And then a plus 3. And that would be my final answer.